Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back. So today we're going to be taking our very first look at the subreddit motorcycles here in 2025, and there's some real juicy ones in here. I'm looking forward to this one. Let's get right into it. So the first thing we've got here is a video. How and why did this happen? Let's take a look. The caption there is "Damn Ghost Rider." It's brilliant. So for my money, there's only really one way that can happen, and that is a fuel leak. Simple as that. So one of the fuel lines might have split, started leaking some oil maybe onto the exhaust pipe, and then it just set the whole thing ablaze. That's why, to be honest with you, before you ride your bike, you always check the floor underneath it to make sure that there's no leaks of any kind. If it's oil, if it's fuel, if it's, I don't know, coolant, brake fluid, any of the fluids are really important things to have inside your motorcycle. If they're leaking, then, well, something like this could happen. So always just make sure to have a little check underneath the bike to make sure there's no little spots or marks, and I think you'll be alright. But yeah, that's quite clearly a fuel leak to me. So you guys tell me about this next one and whether or not you think this was deliberate. Surely this is deliberate. Like, why? Why? He just so happened to stop where the bike was. As soon as he hit the bike, that's when he stopped. So if he didn't know the bike was there, surely he would have kept on moving. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't moving fast enough, but still, like, does this guy just hate bikers or something? I don't know. Missing Miami right about now. Yeah, I bet you are, mate. I wonder where that is. In Canada? Or maybe it's Detroit or something, North America. I don't know. But, like, north of North America, if you know what I mean. Not the continent. But, yeah. Was this worth the money? Let's take a look. Hell yeah. Definitely. I think so. It totally changes the riding experience for me, so it is absolutely worth it. And it makes a bike that might be getting a bit long in the tooth, it gives it a huge new lease on life. Honestly, you'll really start enjoying it. Yeah, man. Absolutely worth it. It's like a Ninja 650, Ninja 400, Ninja 300 maybe. Certainly a parallel twin. But yeah, definitely worth it for me. Just got my first bike. I know this sub doesn't care much about cruisers, but I love it. 2005 Honda Shadow Aero. I love that bike, man. Old Jap cruisers are really cool. They're really cool bikes, and, well, to be honest with you, in a lot of ways, they might even be better than the American cruisers. So, yeah, if you're going to get one, especially if your first ever cruiser bike, then, yeah, definitely go for a Japanese one. But, yeah, what a nice bike. It's crazy that 2005, I've got to say, is old now. That was my heyday, man. Doesn't feel that long ago. Alright, this one's interesting. Is a long ride on a sport bike doable? For clarity, I haven't got on my bike yet, but I was looking at the new model of Daytona Triumph 660. They recently changed the body from a super sport style to a more comfortable sport. Even though I haven't owned a bike before, I've been riding bikes with my brother for a few years, but never had the money for my own until recently. I have several buddies that ride cruisers, and they plan to do a trip to ride through and around Yellowstone National Park, and wanted me to join them when I finally got mine. Would riding a sport bike for that trip be alright, especially if it's a Daytona Triumph? Or should I change plans and get a cruiser to be able to go on this trip with them? Or just not go with them? If getting a cruiser is the better option, what should I get? My budget is between 5 and 10k. $5,000 to $10,000. That is a lot of budget for a motorcycle. So I haven't seen the ergonomics of this Triumph 660, but if it depends on what kind of motorcycle you're talking about, because if this is a sport bike, like a super sport, which means you're leaning over the handlebars, you're quite an aggressive seating position, for me, that would be quite difficult to do over a long journey. Some people, though, they don't find it uncomfortable whatsoever, and they can take a super sport and ride it for hours and hours on end without any issues whatsoever. For me, I think personally, that isn't the bike that I would get for a long journey. However, if it's more of a sport touring seating position, if it's changed a little bit to more of a sport touring seating position, then that might be more than doable. Pretty much what you're looking for is a riding position that is fairly neutral. Cruisers, they ride like armchairs. So, not physically, they're a lot of fun to ride. I'm saying in terms of ergonomics, in terms of comfort, they sit really laid back, and you could ride those bikes for hours on end. They're a hell of a lot of fun. I absolutely love cruiser bikes. But personally, if it was me, getting a motorcycle for a long journey, it wouldn't be a super sport. The only way you can find out is to get on a super sport. If you ask the dealer and say, put me on a super sport, they get you on a super sport, that you can feel the ergonomics of that, then ask them to get you on that Daytona. Just have a feel of the ergonomics when you're actually on the bikes and see what the differences are. So if you're leaning over quite far forward, if it's quite aggressive, then no, that probably isn't going to be the best motorcycle for a longer journey. But it really does depend, because if the bike is good enough, if the experience is fun enough, you won't care about the ergonomics that much. So yeah, I know it's a tough one, but for me, you've got to get on the bike. You've got to try it out for yourself. Once you've done that, if you can do that, then I think you'll find out pretty quickly which is the best option. Or even get yourself on a cruiser as well. Ask them to put you on a cruiser. They should have one in stock. And yeah, just have a look at that. Or even an adventure bike. An adventure bike is a perfectly good option as well. They tend to be incredibly comfy bikes as well. There's lots of options out there. For longer trips, there's lots of options out there. But riding a sport bike or a super sport isn't really the best option, to be honest. But if it's got more of a sport touring riding position, then that'll probably be all right. Let's have a look at some of these comments here. So yes, you can. The Daytona 660 isn't even that aggressive in riding position, but you'd be taking more breaks than your cruiser buddies would be for sure. So they're saying it's not that aggressive, but it must be aggressive enough if you have to take lots of breaks. But yeah, this person said, I'm not so sure cruisers are more comfortable than the Daytona. I don't know about that, man. It really does kind of depend on where your feet placements are for me. If the foot pegs are quite far forward and you can extend your knees quite far, that is more comfortable than if the foot pegs are closer towards you and you have to get in like a squat position almost when you're sitting on the bike. That's the experience that I had on the Honda Rebel 1100, where I was expecting it to be a bit more comfortable than it actually was. It didn't ride as comfortable as the Vulcan S did. So yeah, yeah, it does depend on the cruiser, I suppose. This next person says, yes, but probably not for a new rider. I used to tour with a couple of guys who rode an R6 and a Gixxer 600. They wouldn't ride anything else. Man, that must have been tough. They were fine going long distances, but also very experienced riders and basically in MotoGP shape and size physically. Yeah, the bike will be fine. You will be the limiting factor. I suppose that is accurate, where you as the rider are the person. You are the thing that really makes a bike more comfortable or not, if you know what I mean, because a lot of it depends on how you feel when you're on the bike. So like I said earlier, some people, they can ride super sports and they can ride them absolutely fine for really long periods of time. Some people can't. I'm one of those people that probably couldn't. Okay, I would have to take lots of breaks for sure. Yeah, what do you guys think? Could a super sport or a sport bike be comfortable over a really long journey? I know the answer is going to be depends. But you guys let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Or are you on a similar kind of wavelength as me where, yeah, not great for touring? There are much better bikes out there for touring, like adventure bikes. Personally, adventure bikes are probably a better option than cruiser bikes, to be honest. Or touring bikes even might be a better option, especially with 10 grand to spend. That's a lot of money. So you could definitely get a pretty decent tourer or adventure bike for that kind of money. Help me decide. Okay. That. Easily, straight away. Rebel 1100, no question. Yeah, absolutely. Honda Rebel. 100%. Okay, alright. Motorcycle at 40, wife not accepting. I recently turned 40 and I've always wanted a bike. Since we were dating, my wife has always said, no way, because they are dangerous. Of course, it's always the thing that they say. I suppose because of turning 40, the thought of, I am really never going to get to get to own a bike really crept in and got to me. I've talked with my wife, and while she's not flat out saying no, she definitely isn't a fan, and is under the impression that if I get a bike, I'm more than likely going to die or lose my legs. We have 3 kids, I work a 9 to 5 and an on-call job, and she also works very hard. We spend 97% of our free time doing things with or for our kids. I would never just go and buy a bike, but she's given me the kind of green light, but I know she's not going to be happy if and when I pull the trigger. My plan would be to get the bike now when it's warm enough. I will ride around the neighborhood to get used to it, then March, April, do a safety course and take it from there. The issue is every time I get close to pulling the trigger, I get an overwhelmed feeling of guilt. Any suggestions would help. Okay, buddy. So, this, quite frankly, I know you want to respect what your wife says and what have you. I do the same thing. But it's not her decision. Yes, it is something that could affect everybody if something bad happened to you. But I'm telling you right now, that's very unlikely to happen. Again, it's this same... We spoke about this recently in a video where people get this impression. It is the one where you've got to be... whether or not you've got to be brave or stupid to ride bikes. And again, it comes back to this whole thing of everyone's impression of motorcycles is that you will die at some point or other. That is absolutely not true. There are... Most riders, I don't want to pluck a number out of my head, but the vast majority of riders will have a long and successful career riding bikes without coming anywhere near close to getting killed. A lot of it comes down to your throttle hand, a lot of it comes down to your awareness, your ability to perceive what's going to happen around you or anticipate what's going to happen before it happens. If you can do that, and to be honest with you, at 40 years old, I imagine you've been driving for a lot of that time, you're going to have a lot of road awareness already as it is, and a motorcycle is going to give you a hell of a lot more space on the road. So, the thing is, though, I understand that wives, partners, they do have quite a big influence in what you do in your life. I mean, maybe I was lucky because I was riding bikes before I met my wife, but even so, like, her dad rides bikes, and so bikes are in her family. I've been riding long enough now to know that these people, because they don't do it themselves, they don't know what they're talking about. It's fear of the unknown. And that is perhaps the thing that people don't quite understand. And they will never believe it for themselves unless they experienced it themselves. I don't like this, man. My cousin, he is literally in the exact same position right now, where his girlfriend, soon-to-be wife, isn't allowing him to ride motorcycles because, again, she thinks they're dangerous. Like, I can't say anything, can I? What can I say? Even though I'm an expert on the matter, been riding for over 15 years, put thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of miles on bikes over that time. But because of a wife's girlfriend's superstition, or I don't know, lack of knowledge, I suppose, it goes back to that fear of the unknown. They don't know really what it's about, and so they think it's incredibly dangerous. It's only dangerous if you make it dangerous. It all comes down to the way you ride the bike. If you ride the bike sensibly, you don't do anything too crazy, you'll be all right. Honestly, that is really what it comes down to. It's you, how sensible you are, how patient you are, and getting time in the saddle. All right, you're never going to be safe the first few times you get out and ride your motorcycle. You've got to get some experience under your belt. So you do that by going out on roads that aren't that busy, roads that you know, roads that if you need to take a break, take a few minutes to get your bearings or what have you, then you've got time to do that, and you can be incredibly patient with it. But look, this is biased coming from me, but this is coming from experience. You will be fine. All right, you will be fine. Don't worry about your it's a phobia. All right, it is a phobia. Your wife has a phobia of this. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. There are going to be times where you're going to get involved with some close calls during your running career. That happens to every motorcyclist. Your actions in that moment really make the difference between it being a close call and a crash. And that all comes down to you as the rider. Look, maybe there's a kind of compromise that you can do. Maybe you can get like a smaller bike to start off with. You know, maybe you could go through the options with your wife and say, look, I'm looking at these bikes here. Which one do you think you would be comfortable with? This one has got all these safety features. I'm going to be getting this helmet, this set of leathers, these gloves, these boots to try and protect myself as much as I can. Try and approach it that way, where you're consciously aware that she's worried about this, and so you are trying to show her that these are the types of things you can do to keep yourself safe. You do that, maybe she'll come around to the idea. She's never going to be thrilled about it, but after you've been on the bike for a year or so, she'll get used to it, and you don't have to worry about it. Then you can look at maybe getting something a little bit bigger, something that maybe you really want. But it's always the way to start off with bikes. Start off with something smaller anyway, so you're not totally overwhelmed with the riding experience, and then from there, yeah, when you get a few miles under your belt, then you can look at moving up the ladder. But I'm sorry that this is happening to you. Unfortunately, you're not the only one. And yeah, wives and girlfriends, because we want to respect their wishes, you know. But if there's something that you've always wanted to do, you've got to do it for your own. Even if it's just like a bucket list kind of thing, even if it's just for a few years, get the bike, ride it for a few years, and see how you get on with it. The fact that she's not outright saying no, but you're getting this feeling of guilt, right? I get it, but if you try it at least, I don't think she can argue much with you about that if you're just going to try riding the bike. So that's the way how I'd approach it anyway. Approach it with safety in mind, reassurance, all right? And yeah, just say like, look, I'm just going to try it, see how it goes, and then we'll go from there. But I would advise that you do the safety course first. So yeah, go ahead, get the bike, maybe get yourself familiar with the controls, how the bike moves forward and backwards, but do the safety course sooner rather than later, all right? Because that's when you're going to get a lot of information that you're probably not going to know just by learning yourself. Yeah, I'm a self-taught motorcyclist myself, but that was on a really small bike, and yeah, to be honest with you, the journeys that I would do were really short. They weren't ultra long journeys. And a lot of the things that happened to me early on my riding career, someone could have told me about. So, and unfortunately, the training that we get over here in the UK really isn't that great. So I would advise you to do a safety course as early as possible. So, you know, it gives you a better idea of what to look out for when you're going out on the road for the first time. But yeah, once you've got a few miles under your belt, you should get confident fairly quickly and comfortable fairly quickly as well. But I hope that helps, and I'm sorry that this is the situation that you're in. All right, so I mean, this is one thing that we should have looked at as well as the comments. But yeah, the first person is saying, do yourself a huge favor, start by just going to a local MSF course to get your motorcycle endorsement. That will do several things for you. Most importantly, it will let you know if this is all you thought it was or just a neat idea. There is risk in riding, no doubt, but there's also risk in eating sushi as well. If you take the course, you'll know which way to go. That's my 2 cents. Safety course is considerably cheaper than a bike, and you'll learn more than you think. Yeah, pretty much. That's what I was saying. Do that sooner rather than later, and then you'll know straight away. And it looks like that's pretty much the sentiment across the board. Just give yourself the opportunity to try it out first, and the MSF course will allow you to do that. No way. That is insane, bro. He's just like, I have to. That's funny. Okay, interesting. This will be the last one of today's video, you guys, but I'm being told my first bike option is a mistake. Need advice. So I've been for about 10 years, been in love with the Royal Enfield Continental GT 650. And I've always admired it, but never actually got to purchasing one, and I really can't give you a good reason why. I've never been into the whole speed demon thing with a super fast bike that just teleports you everywhere. My riding experience has been with my cousin's Honda CG125. As kids, we'd go messing around on it when we were 10 and 13. Wow, that's pretty brave. 10, 13-year-olds riding 125, fair play. The small group of riders I've spoken to caught them whilst they were getting a coffee, told me that I'd outgrow the bike within 6 months. So what exactly am I going to outgrow is my question. I want to use some mild commuting. I want to use it for some mild commuting rather, about a 20-minute ride, mainly city riding. In hindsight, I would go for a more powerful cafe racer style bike like a Triumph or something, but call me crazy, there's something about the Royal Enfield. What do you guys think? Am I going to regret it? Edit, my uncle lived in a very rural town in Iran, so kids running bikes was a normal sight. Oh, there you go. Thank you for clarifying that. That's pretty cool. Alright, so for me, when it comes to this question, if it's a bike that you like and it's a bike that you want, you're always going to want it. So even if in 6 months' time, what happens to you happens where you so-called outgrow the bike, at least you've got that under your belt. And regardless of whatever happens, you are going to enjoy that experience 100% anyway, because it's a bike that you've always wanted. If there's something about it that you want, like something about it that you like, you're always going to want it. You know, you're always going to want to scratch that itch. So my recommendation is to go for it. If that's something that you want, give it a go. And maybe in a year's time, 2 years' time, if you feel like you've done that, you've got past it, you can look at the next thing. Now, what they mean by what you're going to outgrow, it's pretty much motorcycles. They have a habit of, when you first buy them, they're very, very quick, they're very, very exciting, but they do get a little bit long in the tooth after a little while. Whereas something that's a little bit more exciting tends to kick about a little bit longer. It seems to be one of those things that you hold more importantly, if you know what I mean. If there's always something that you can get excited about when you're riding a more powerful motorcycle, I think is pretty much what they're talking about. Basically, it's a motorcycle that is it's classed more like a beginner bike, a beginner motorcycle. So it's, yeah, I do see what they mean, but to be fair, a 650 is a really good option as a starter bike. I don't know what the performance figures are of it. I don't know how quick it's going to be. But if it's something, again, that you like about it, it doesn't really matter what performance it has. But yeah, I honestly wouldn't worry about what other people say. It's always that thing where if you're looking to buy a gift for someone, you want to buy the thing that they want. You don't want to buy them something that is like what they want, because then it's not going to really have that same impact. You want to buy them what they want. Otherwise, they might resent the gift, you know, because they got so close to getting the thing they wanted, but then they're so disappointed that it wasn't actually the thing that they wanted. It's a similar kind of thing here. If you don't buy this motorcycle, you're always going to wonder what would it have been like. So, I mean, it could be one of those things where you buy a different motorcycle to start off with to get used to the hobby and getting involved, but then a little bit later on you can have a look at that Royal Enfield if you wanted to, again, to tick that off the checklist. But there's always motorcycles that people want, all right? And if this is a motorcycle that is attainable for you, then that is really good, because it means you really do get to experience a motorcycle that is your dream bike. No one can tell you what a dream bike is and what a dream bike isn't. That is all down to you and what you like. So if you're able to, yeah, tick that off your checklist in life, go for it. Honestly, I think you'll absolutely love it regardless. Some people might not, all right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if I'd like it or that someone else wouldn't like it. All that matters is whether or not you'd like it. So I think the thing to do would be to try it out. And I mean, I don't know if you got to get a license or anything like that. I'm not sure where you live exactly. But if you can get this motorcycle, then maybe get yourself your license first if you need to and what have you, and go for it. To be honest with you, don't worry about what anyone else says. Honestly, when it comes down to motorcycles, it's a very personal thing. It's a very selfish thing. So be selfish about it. Get the bike that you want. All right, everybody. Well, there you have it. That is our first run of 2025 on the subreddit motorcycles. Quite a lot of really cool things here, and I'm glad that it's still going strong. There's lots of people buying new bikes. Lots of people saying on there they bought their first bike as well. It's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it's really good to see. Not so crazy this time as well on some of the stuff, but hopefully today we've given you some insights to some of these questions, some decent answers to some of these questions, at least a good starting point anyway. But a lot of it comes down to you as the person and what you decide to do. But to be honest with you, for the most part, you got to do what you feel is right for you. But yeah, everybody, if you've enjoyed this video, if you learned something today, then definitely go ahead, leave that like hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below about what we've spoken about today. But yeah, thanks again, everyone. Take care, ride safe. We'll catch you all in the next video. Have a good one.